All right. So since we came together as a team back in June of 2012, which was earlier this year, we have had an awesome opportunity to really get involved in this campaign to bring a union to the Nissan workers who have requested that, and also ensure that they can have a fair election. So I think that over that time period, from there into now, we have grown a lot as individuals, as a whole team. This team is comprised of brilliant people who actually have this mission and this movement in their heart, and I think that over time we've grown to know each other a lot more, rely on each other a lot more, and really engage in this work to make a change and make a difference. So what we're going to focus on now is more of the work that we've done from August up until this point, and talk about how we came up with some of the ideas for those things, the events that we did, how the success of those events, some of the shortcomings that may have came, and try to encompass all that together. So we're going to have an open dialogue, conversation between everybody on the team on what we think worked for us and how those things are. So we got a list of events that we did. So kind of informal, but we'll go for it.
The first event is the Art and Poetry and Justice event.
Okay, so with Art, Poetry, and Justice, it was pretty much an event that we collaborated with a couple of other community groups. And so it was middle school, high school, and then college students that expressed any concerns that they had that was regarding social justice in their communities, on their campuses, and they did that through poetry or by graphic design. So it was a couple of participants that actually did hand paintings, and those paintings reflected social justice, civil rights movements, things that concern them or that interest them. And so we had a good number of participants from the MSJA, from Jackson State, from Tougaloo, and then, of course, the high schools that were also represented there. So that was a very successful event, one of our first events that we participated in. And we also participated by giving away a couple of gifts to some of the people who were extraordinary in their delivery. And so our contribution as a team was some the Dr. Dre beats, and so of course we were the talk of the town for our contribution. But the event was very successful because not only did it show that students, young people were active in their community and do pay attention to issues that are going on, and that wasn't just one way that they were able to express that, not just poetry, but also through art. And so we brought justice to it all.
And I think one thing that Monica did mention in there is the fact that we did work with some other organizations, ACLU, Sutherland Poverty Law Center, the Children's Defense Fund, Young People's Project, Faith Incorporated, Tougaloo College, the Health and Wellness Center. They added a lot into this. This is our second year doing this event. Oh yeah, the Mississippi State Conference, NAACP, which we work a lot with those organizations in order to do a lot of community work we're doing. So that collaboration was something that was a great success. This was the second year that it was done. This year, the UAW, we actually were able to contribute a lot to that. So with that event, we were able to put not only the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance's name out there, but also show that the UAW is a community partner in doing these events and aiding in developing our communities.
The next event is Incarceration Nation discussions. Joshua?
The Incarceration Nation discussions were a series of discussions that we collaborated with the Malcolm X grassroots movement, the gentleman from the Rho Epsilon chapter of Omega Psi Phi for some occasions. And the conversations were designed to address the plight of African Americans through the prison industrial complex, the massive system by which African American men and women fall prey to, and also it was to address and make this conversation very interactive, so students can then start to present soluble ideas that would decrease the prison industrial complex, which would decrease that pipeline. And the beautiful thing about the conversation, I think, is that it inspired students and it inspired other partnering community organizations to wish to be involved, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, that does a lot to address the inconsistencies in education and how those inconsistencies in education lead to the prison pipeline. And so we had an opportunity to take the minds of students and really introduce them to the prison industrial complex, but more so introduce them, really inculcate them in the fact that see, it had to be a moment. It had to, why, Tyson? Why?
You shouldn't have said it. You shouldn't have said it.
Josh is known for using huge words or just these new words that he pulls
out. Inculcate, immerse students in the knowledge as Kemar has left the room. Because he had to blow his nose. But as immerse students in the knowledge of what is going on the groundwork here in Mississippi. The beautiful thing is about that conversation is that it addressed what happens in Mississippi, and it got Mississippi students involved in reversing the horrific ordeals of black people going to jail. And it also allowed students that first taste of activism. I think that those conversations, those series of conversations really got students active, involved, and ready to do work to reverse the dynamics of this state.
I think a good portion of that conversation, and to bring it back home to why it's relevant to the work that we're doing, we look at the state of Mississippi. The reason why Nissan has made the imprint on this state is because before Nissan was here, there wasn't any high-paying jobs that the public can get into or attain. And when Nissan came, it offered an opportunity for people who normally would either one or two things would happen to them. Not one or two things, but some likelihoods of things will happen to them. It's either go to school or you go to jail, or you leave Mississippi. And that highlighted that this conversation highlighted the importance of the work that we're doing to help the workers out there at Nissan create an environment where fairness exists, create an environment where their rights are advocated for, because rights. Martin Luther King says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And with understanding that we're fighting for and the rights of the workers out there in Nissan is also an understanding that we also have a commitment to this community and changing some of the other things. And when we talk about mass incarceration, when we talk about the prison industrial complex, we talk about how that affects our communities in so many different ways. We have to look at a place like Nissan and ask the question of how are they affecting our community as well. So throughout this series of conversations that we've been having about the mass incarceration in prison industrial complex, I think that we are able to highlight different and relevant points on why it's so important for the Nissan workers to unionize out there.
Yeah, I think it brought light to worker justice through giving light to, as you stated, the prison industrial complex, to note that workers, even if you're working for the state inside of state penitentiary, need some type of justice. They need a voice to advocate for them. And I think that this was the opportunity for students to begin to do that advocacy work.
Anybody else want to share some comments they thought about the mass incarceration?
I just know that I learned a lot from that whole event, because all those facts that we put on the wall about statistics, about how there are more prisoners than slaves, and how it's still a way to get free labor. It was just very educational. I could tell a lot of people learned a lot from that event.
Yeah.
The next events were voter registration, the Protect the Vote training, and the watch party election.
Can you talk a little bit about that, Kathy?
During the summer, we attended the Mississippi State Conference Summits, and it was brought to our awareness that a lot of people in Mississippi were not registered to vote. So as a team, we came up with this idea to make sure that we had a goal to set. So we said that we wanted to register 25 people to vote. And so we got on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, asking people to come out, register to vote. And we had a lot of good turnout. So in the end, we had 27 people to come out and get registered to vote, because either they thought they couldn't vote because they didn't know what district they were going to vote in, or, well, I changed my maiden name, so I don't know if I'm able to vote. And so a lot of problems pertaining to that. A lot of people were scared and thinking that, oh, I can't vote because of this, or I can't vote because I'm in this district. So we had to make a lot of changes and let a lot of people know that you can vote and you can get out and vote. And we had to make a lot of people know that your vote do count, so it's important that you come out and register. And dealing with the Protect the Vote training, we had a lot of Mississippi Student Justice Alliance participants to come out and register to go as poll watchers and to get calls about complaints. We had a lot of people to come out and tell us that they was being discriminated because of their car tags, or they were being told you couldn't vote in this district because something was wrong with your driver's license. So during that time, I think all of us as a team stepped up, and so everybody went to different places to make sure that this person was not being discriminated because of their car tags, because of their IDs, or because of their cell phones. We did have a lot of complaints, but at the end of the day, I mean, it was a good turnout, and it turned out to be a good watch party, so I'll turn it over to Kimar.
Can you talk a little bit about our collaborative efforts, what we did as far as with the Mississippi State Conference NAACP, the tailgates, the different outings that we did as far as registering people to vote, the work that we did with efforts that were being done by the Obama for America team.
So for the Register to Vote and Protect the Vote, we worked alongside organizations such as Obama for America, the NAACP, Tougaloo College, and also the APRI organization. We helped them out at a festival. What's the city? I forgot. Yo.
You were in Macomb.
No, it wasn't
Meridian.
Macomb. It wasn't Meridian.
McGee.
It was right outside of Hattiesburg.
McGee.
Oh.
Yeah, McGee.
We were in McGee, Mississippi, and during that festival, it was a downtown festival. I believe it was the second annual festival where everybody in the community came out, and people sold things, Girl Scouts, different organizations were there, and me and Ron, who's an individual from Atlanta, we registered over 30 people to vote with this organization. So that was a wonderful experience. All right, during the rally, What's Up Wednesdays at Tougaloo College, we continue to register individuals to vote. We let people know information about the rights of a Mississippian to vote. Let them know about, in case people tried to turn them around at the polls, they had the right to either show them or tell them their rights as a Mississippian getting out to vote. We announced certain events that we were having around voter registration and the watch parties that we had going on around the city of Jackson, with organizations that we worked alongside with the Obama campaign. They had a watch party near downtown. Tougaloo had a watch party as well, and we also had our own watch party. So we had different students going to different venues, participating in these events. I'll help the NAACP with calling individuals, reminding them to go out to vote days before voting. And yeah.
The important thing that you're speaking of there, and what we did, not only registering people to vote, not only informing them about the candidates who they were voting for, whether that was Republican or Democratic candidate. What we also wanted to ensure was justice was done that day. So getting the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance members involved in protecting the vote really parallels the work that we're doing with the UAW and with the Nissan workers out there. The Nissan workers are asking for a fair election. And what we seen during this election cycle was on a national level, certain parties were trying to undermine a fair election. They, with the voter ID laws, with the various different efforts to keep people from voting, which ultimately failed, prepared our students that we work with to gear up for the fight for these Nissan workers out there who are asking for a fair election. Because if you understand the principles of a fair election in general public, then you definitely understand the principles of a fair election when it comes to voting for a union or not. Same thing goes. We hear both sides of the story from both candidates, and you hear both sides of the story from the union and from the employer as well too. So students now have a firm understanding through that work that we did there on the work that we got to do now.
Mm-hmm. And we can also speak on the middle school that we went and spoke to. I can't quite remember the name.
Northwest
Jackson Middle School. We had the opportunity to speak with over 200 students, I would say, about voter education, about who we were as an organization, and also tied in the work with the Nissan workers into the whole spiel so they could get a gist of exactly what we're working for their generation as they come up, as well as for ourselves.
Yeah, I think the awesome thing about the students, though, is they were so young, but they understood so much.
They were well
educated. There was nothing that we threw at them that they did not get. And there was some complex things when it comes down to voters' rights and, the voters' bill of rights that we all have. They understood those things in depth at a young age. So that's a promising thing for our generation. And it shows a lot to their parents and a lot of work that has been done by community that they are educating the youth on where they should be and where they should stand.
The next event is the French delegation.
French delegation, working through the GOI capacity. Awesome opportunity to meet people from all across the world that are in tune to what's going on here in Mississippi, a place that we call home. The fact that people have their eyes on this particular location that all across this world is an amazing thing. Had the opportunity that was the 6 or 7 French delegates that came down. We were able to help them understand where Mississippi was. What we did for them was we took them on a civil rights tour, which included going to Medgar Evers' home, which included going to Lanier High School, where Freedom Summer and much of the student-led movements happened from that area and from the areas that we took them on a civil rights tour to show them what Mississippi was and why this movement is there. But Josh, you can talk a little bit more about it.
I think that as we took the French delegates around, they began to understand the terrain better here in Mississippi. They understand the dynamics that civil rights and labor rights are related and interconnected. They and to be with these French labor leaders, these men who have a great understanding on labor and how it can help a country, how these men could totally shut down a country in the months prior to their visit to Mississippi, and then to be in Mississippi and understand what's going on here on the ground, and they could connect these things. It was an awesome experience to take them on that civil rights tour, and then to, in the afternoon, host not just an intergenerational, but a multicultural conversation between students at Tougaloo, students from Jackson State, and to really give them an understanding on how the work that we're doing here has such a global effect. I think that was something that was good from the French delegation's visit here to Mississippi, and just to introduce them to what the workers are going through, to have that conversation with workers here at Nissan, with students here in Mississippi, with these French delegates, and so they could really just get an understanding. And then at the end of their time spent here in Mississippi, for them to just be overwhelmingly supportive of what's going on here in Mississippi. That was just a rich moment. And we're back.
The next event is the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance Retreat. And this retreat was a way to get all our students from Jackson State and Tougaloo to come together so we can bring awareness to them more about what the campaign is for and what our mission is. We wanted to teach them how to mobilize, organize, and wanted to give them a brief definition of exactly what Mississippi Student Justice Alliance stood for. I mean, it's one thing to go to meetings and come to events, but we wanted them to get a personal view of who we were and what we wanted to accomplish throughout this campaign and throughout the semester with the Nissan workers. So at the retreat, we had a lot of speakers to come, especially the Nissan workers, to come and tell their stories personally about what's going on in Nissan and why they want a union. And they gave the students a way to understand of why we're doing this as an organization, as an alliance. And it brought more perspective to them on why the workers are fighting so hard for this union. I mean, they're being intimidated. They're having to work long hours lately. So this just gave them a way of understanding that everyone deserves a voice and everyone deserves to take a stand and fight for what they believe in.
Okay. So the retreat, pretty much like Catherine said, was an opportunity for our students to get together from Jackson State and from Tougaloo College to learn to mobilize and what organizing is all about. We have our meetings all the time. We tell them the stories. They know about the cause, but for them to actually have the opportunity to talk to the Nissan workers and really engage with them to get a better understanding about what a union is and what they're really fighting for, not wages is what we've seen so much written about in the media, but really just for the opportunity to be respected and have dignity. So once we were able to hosting that retreat was a very important, I think, event because it gave them an opportunity to connect what we've been saying to what is actually happening. And it gave them the opportunity to really just take the initiative to say this is what we can do on our campuses and have a passionate emotion struck where they said like this is something that we need to do. This is not something that we just want to do for community service or because Monica asked me to or Joshua or Tyson asked me to. This is something that we are sincerely concerned about, and this is something that we must take on. So the retreat was a two-day thing, and so we actually got a good number of students to come on both days, and people that even came back. Some people was able to make one day, and a bulk of people were able to make both days. So we had fun, we did icebreakers, but the most important thing was the students learning about organizing, mobilizing, and what the campaign is all about.
The next event is the discussion on Venezuela. We'll hand that over to Kimar.
Well, the discussion of Venezuela was pretty short, simple, and sweet. The main thing that they showed was a documentary about the culture of Venezuela and how we got the the campaign for Nissan here. They showed how Venezuela, they have more control of their government. The governor or the mayor, they have to listen to what the people say, and he has to abide by that and get things done for the people. It's not like that over here. If it was that way, we would have had the union for the Nissan workers. But their issue was with agriculture, with their farms, with their food products, and how they had things transported from the United States to their country, from their country to the United States, and how they lost profit by doing that. And then towards the end of that documentary, it showed how things got back in their favor and actually, growing things back the way they should be, and then gaining back the money that they lost. So through that whole documentary, I just envisioned, the Nissan workers finally getting their union and finally getting the respect they deserve for one, as well as getting equal pay as other individuals that are on salary already compared to a temp worker, and just all of them just getting equal pay as the other Nissan workers that are in different plants in other states.
The next two events, I think, are the events that were the big highlights of this semester, and that gave us a perspective of what we're doing is not just for us, but for the community as a whole. And we wanted to show the community as a whole that this is something that we have passion for, and Those was the Black Leadership Summit and the I Am Conference. So.
Well, the Black Leadership Summit, actually, we had the opportunity to really engage in the Black Leadership Summit before November, because the Black Leadership Summit main dates were November 26th through the 28th. But we've been working along with One Voice, Mississippi, and Mississippi State Conference, NAACP, who host the Black Leadership Summits since this summer. They did regional trainings throughout the state, and so we actually had the opportunity to go to the B.B. King Museum, which is in Indianola, which is a beautiful facility. But we were actually able to bring legislators and community leaders and elected officials from the Delta to come we did one in Hattiesburg, but actually bring ones from the Delta and Indianola there to facilitate conversations on what their agenda should be and what are some of the issues, and the main issue talking about ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and their initiatives and what they're trying to do. And then we went from there. We went to Hattiesburg and did one down there, the region there, and then we went to Tupelo and did one there, and I think it was one more. In Columbia. So it was 4 different regions that we went to throughout the state, and trained and educated people on ALEC, which I think if we look at the results of what was done there in the election cycle, it really proved effective. We looked at, they tried to attack us with the voter ID laws. They tried to attack us with immigration laws. They tried to attack us with so many different ways that we actually got defeated because of the organizing work that was done. And to be a part of that is really a great thing. So it moves us into November, the Black Leadership Summit. And before we were involved in the Black Leadership Summit, which we brought volunteers to Mississippi Student Justice Alliance. We brought students there. They actually had the opportunity to interact with the elected officials, had the opportunity to see and hear from some of the nation's thought rights on how to improve our communities. Was a very great experience. But before that happened on the 26th, we actually had our own conference, which is the I Am Conference, which started on November.
It started on the 26th.
And my dates are wrong.
And the Black Leadership Summit started on the 28th.
Yep. The Black Leadership Summit started on the 28th through the what? 30?
Yeah, 30th.
And our conference was 26th through
the 28th.
Sorry.
Yeah, they meshed together.
You can talk about the I Am Conference, though.
Anybody? If I may take the liberty, I think the I Am Conference was, for this semester, our foremost work. I think all of our works led up to that, from the moment where we were printing drop knowledge cards to remind people of the I Am Conference, or just to put a buzz in their ear, and also bring relationships to the civil rights movement and labor rights. We everything that we did kind of shifted into the I Am Conference, or flowed into it. Thus, we had great participation for the I Am Conference. And the I Am Conference was based, of course, on the 1968 sanitation struggle in Memphis, Tennessee, which ultimately cost Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. his life. And in the I Am Conference, we planned a conference that was extremely positive towards how labor rights are inextricable from any human right. And we did a variety of events. We hosted a conversation on faith and labor and the statement, I am the assertion of humanity. Kimar and Monica hosted a wonderful web series, The Student Voice, which is going to be something that's ongoing. And then we also ended our conference with the viewing of At the River I Stand, which is the 1993 documentary on the 1968 sanitation struggle. But beyond that, what we had great was we had the participation of Mr. Baxter Leach and Mr. Alvin Turner, who were greatly immersed in the 1968 sanitation struggle, for they were two of the workers that went on strike in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. And so we had just great participation, great student participation. Anybody else can, take a hammer at something from the IAM conference.
James, how did you feel like seeing that? I know you had like a bird's eye view, getting a chance to record most of that, but
that whole thing was definitely something that I think we should push to keep doing something like that, because we were able to stream it live and have other campuses, other people who weren't able to come out to the event just tune in and get like a firsthand story of the perspective of the workers who were there during that time. And they had a lot to share about their struggle, what they went through, and specific advice on people who are trying to further the movement today. So yeah, it was a great experience. Like you said, I was behind the camera during the whole event, but I was able to really take that message that they were delivering and make sure that we were able to push it out to the masses. So
I think we had a great opportunity that I think the IAM conference was one of the greatest moments for students to really hit home how imperative the work that we're doing and how important the role of the student is in the work that we do, from the moment where I don't think that there was a dry eye in the room when Mr. Turner, the first night of the IAM conference, shared with us in the conversation on faith and labor what motivated him when he said that he was in the room when Dr. King delivered his last message, his last speech, "I've seen the mountaintop," and he expresses to all of us in the room that what he envisioned that Dr. King saw, that he saw, Mr. Turner himself saw his daughters, and that's what he did that work for, that they at some day may have an opportunity for a fair workplace, and then also the opportunity to have a black president, that all these struggles culminated in that one moment when Dr. King said, "I've seen the mountaintop." And so I think that just really charged our students and charged the work that we do. It gave us, not just a newfound energy, but this, really solidified presence as the happening social justice organization in the city of Jackson. I think it's those moments when we're able to bring the people that were involved, or like whether it was the Nissan workers or the sanitation workers, when the students get to directly hear that story or interact with them, that's when it hits home, like emotionally, and it just pulls everyone in the room in, and they want to join that struggle and join that movement. I think we do a lot of great work, but it's that moment specifically because that's what it was for me. That's what brought me in when I heard the Nissan workers tell it from their perspective, because they deal with it. We report on it, but when they tell it, it's like you can just see it in their eyes, see it in their face, how sincere they are, and how it's hard. They have a lot to lose, so that's why it's important for us to do what we do. Yeah. Tyson, could you talk about the conversation we had the last night of the conference between the sanitation workers and the Nissan workers?
Absolutely. That was an awesome conversation. What we concluded showing at the River I Stand with a panel discussion that involved the two sanitation workers, Mr. Baxter Leach and Alvin Turner, and three Nissan workers, Mr. Morris Mock,
Michael
Carter, and the last gentleman.
Morris. Mr. Morris?
No, Ted Morris. We're about to edit this out. What was the last one? His name was.
I know you're talking about.
I don't know. But anyway, I'll start over. The conversation between the sanitation workers and the Nissan workers was so rich. It was an opportunity for the sanitation workers to talk about their experience and the reason why they chose to go on strike and the reason why they chose to stand up and say we want rights, and then to hear the Nissan workers pretty much say the exact same thing. That show one. We always talk about movements, and we talk about movements a lot of times in the past tense version, but if we look at the word movement, the movement can't be in past tense. It has to be present because it's still a continual action, and it showed right then that the movement has not stopped, and the reason why we do what we do is still important. To hear the Nissan workers asked the sanitation workers specific questions, which gave them more power to continue to push this system that's telling them that they don't have these rights, to push back. Was a very powerful and enlightening experience, and just to see their faces, to hear that conversation firsthand, was awesome. And I think for the students that were in the audience, for the community members that were in the audience, everyone had a piece to say about what they heard and what they experienced. So, as one of our main events and the big event that we push for this quarter, I would say that it showed that we were successful. It showed that we brought the community and we brought students together, and we brought them there with workers, and we brought a historic reference in there, and we facilitated the conversation with everybody.
The fact that we were we were able to facilitate a meeting between like 3 generations.
Yeah.
All of them trying to do the same, working to do the same work.
Yeah.
You had someone who went through it, succeeded. You have someone who's going through it now, and they're in the middle of this fight, and they were able to ask the generation before them, like, how did you do it? Like, what did you do? Mm-hmm. And for them to say, you got to get mad, And when you get mad, you can do anything.
Yep.
And I think, in that we had from, the elderly on down to very young in that room, and that message just hit home for everybody, So everybody took away from it, especially the Nissan workers. And so I was proud. I was there, like right there at the stage. I was proud just to be able to say that we were a part of being able to facilitate that meeting, bond right there.
Yeah, that much history in the room at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of the web show, which was a show by students for students to entertain, but more importantly, inform and educate the next generation, like you said, the generation that's going through to actually win a union for the Nissan workers. I had the humble experience of interviewing Mr. Alvin Turner and Baxter Leach and letting them explain their stories. We had clips of the movie I Am that showed their stories and their colleagues and co-workers' stories and how they endured through this experience. So it was awesome. Me and Ms. Atkins, where we had the opportunity to sit down, ask questions to these men, and get answers and advice to the people of the Nissan workers. And we also had the opportunity of SNCC actually watched through the Ustream, and it was also broadcasted through Jackson State's campus. So I thought that was beautiful to let other people that weren't just in the room but outside the room to actually get that experience with us also. So with the web show continuing, I'm looking forward to having more experience such as that, and informing and educating more people on what's going on, what needs to happen, and so we can continue to push forward.
One other
be
aspect
victorious.
of the web show is the fact that we actually involve social media with that as well too. We talked about Ustream. Sometimes, what is Ustream? It is a platform on the web where you can stream directly, video for everyone to see every content, live content. And also outside of Ustream, we also use Twitter and Facebook as well too. So we did something very interactive with the audience. Instead of just having someone take the mic into the audience and ask questions, we actually had the audience members tweet, and we had a Twitter board up there. And the host, which was Kemar and Monique Atkins, Monica's sister, they were able to look at the board and ask questions directly off of that, which gave it a unique twist. So we're actually involving so many different aspects into that to make this something that's different, something that carries the spirit of these students to the world that are advocating for the Nissan workers. Mm-hmm. So.
At the conference, we don't want to forget that we had the official announcement of what the MSJA is. With some press being being present. We can let Monica just talk about that official introduction.
Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate that. So
I'm sure you do.
What we did was, of course, we've been working already in the community on our campuses, doing things and making the MSJ be very visible amongst the college campuses and in the community. But at the I Am conference, it was very important for us to make an announcement with press there so that the world would know exactly who we were and who we are and what we're representing and who we're fighting for. And so as Joshua's already stated, we had press come out. We had a good number of our students come out, and we made a formal announcement where we said that the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance is supporting the Nissan workers as they would like to form a union, and we are standing in solidarity with them during this campaign. So it was very important for us to do that because we've been working already. We've been doing the groundwork already with working with other community organizations and really just working with each other and really making MSJ voice be heard. So we just kind of wanted to put that out there and let the world know. And so we did have some press coverage and it was a beautiful thing.
Well, these next questions, we're going to try to be brief.
Go ahead,
because there's a lot of questions, so we're going to try to be brief. The next thing I think as a team, we all can talk about this, the recruitment efforts that we started in August, and they got us to the database of having 150 students and plus. I know Joshua, Kemar, and myself, starting in August, we went to Tougaloo and we hosted a table on What's Up Wednesdays and getting students to sign applications, letting them know what Mississippi Student Justice Alliance is, what was our mission, what was our goals. We invited them to events, as well as going to classes, talking to some of the students that was in pre-law or they had a passion for labor or something dealing with social justice issues. And I know Monica as well went to Jackson State and talked to some of the professors as well, so I'll let her speak on that.
Okay, so in the recruitment efforts for Jackson State, we did not have as much freedom to set up tables and walk around campus to sign students up. So what I did was contacted different professors in the different departments, in the mass communications department, English department, political science, history, those type of departments. I reached out to those professors to ask them, if I will be able to come speak to their class. And there I made presentations where I told them about, who the MSJA was, the campaign for the Nissan workers as they try to form their union and really strike the hearts of the students and really get them to relate everything I'm saying to why it affects them. And so from there, everything was voluntary. The students, I passed out a sign-up sheet, and we got a pretty good response of people who wanted to be involved just by the presentations alone. And so was very fortunate to have the professors allow me to even come and take up some class time to do that. So we did freshman classes, sophomore, junior, like all classifications, and we had a pretty good sign up.
I think one thing that speaks to the recruitment though, and which helped us a lot was our partnerships with the community organizations that we mentioned earlier. With our partnerships with these community organizations, we were not just going to these classes or recruiting students and saying just come to this meeting and listen to us talk. We actually recruiting them to get involved in the work that was already being presented. So it was, we served as an organization, as community organizers, but two, as MSJA members, we served as facilitators of students to community work. A lot of times we see a lot of this community work that's going on. They want students involved, but yet and still they don't get students there. Or they might have one or two students, they don't have a full thing. What we were able to do was bring students in masses to these events, which gave the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance a great name within the community because they understood that these are actually students who are working or motivated who want to do something. So that speaks to the recruitment and how we were able to merge the two.
Yeah. Just briefly on recruitment, I think we'd be just remiss if we didn't remember when we sat down initially in the semester and gave a big, hairy, audacious goal of 300 students by the end of the year. And we decided to try to do like 70 students this semester, but how overwhelmingly successful that we've been with our recruitment efforts, that we now have 150 and still counting members active, and some who are aware of the MSJA.
Also during the semester, we wanted to highlight several students that was very active in Mississippi Student Justice Alliance. They stood out and they came to everything we had. If they couldn't make a meeting, they at least tried to come to the next meeting, or they called, or they let us know, or they wanted to hold a discussion at the events. So I know a lot of the students at Jackson State and Tougaloo especially were very active just by looking at our database and knowing them personally, because we've got to know them by name. So I know Joshua and Monica would like to talk about that.
This semester, we had 3 individuals who really stuck out. And stop laughing. For real, though. Like Quintarius Moore, Christy Johnson, and Jacayla Brown were 3 of the leading students that I worked with this semester in attempting to get not only just the organization up and running on campus and official, but just working with us all around on the Jackson State side. And they really, like, anytime that I've called them late at night or early in the morning, texting them, emailing them all the time, like, they are always on top of it. And so if one can't be there, they really work with each other, communicating with each other, then with me. So they really have really been exceptional students that I've worked with, and they've really showed their dedication and passion, not only to the MSJA, but to the campaign, and also in recruiting other students to come, and always making sure that they bring more people to the meeting, to events, and really coordinating with me. So those were 3 of the highlighted students from Jackson State. What the hell are y'all laughing?
And so next we're going to go to Joshua Dadman with Tougaloo College.
We had just marvelous students within the MSJA, and I'm sure for Monica and for myself it's difficult to just highlight a few, but we did have some exceptional students who just really took the helm of the work that we wanted them to do. We had Elizabeth Evans, Laurel Oldershaw, who is not technically a Tougaloo student, but she was a visiting student at Tougaloo College from Brown University, who showed the utmost enthusiasm in all that we've done, and a lot of interest. And she has really asked us and gotten us to allow her to help us build the coalition for concerned students for a better Nissan while she returns to Brown, and she'll be in the northeast quadrant of the United States spreading our messaging, and I think she's an asset to have near the team. And then also Miss Kenesha Crowder, who unlike Elizabeth Evans, who is a college junior and is kind of acclimated to the work of Tougaloo, to how to get around some things. But Kenesha Crowder, as a freshman, has shown much diligence in the work that we're doing. And as a biology major, who, someone who you'd think who isn't actually into social justice work, she has done a lot to be a part of the work that we're doing. So those are 3 students from Tougaloo that we'd like to highlight.
I think that the students in general from both college campuses really surprised me in their continual support and continual involvement in what we're doing. what I noticed was, some events we weren't going to get all of them out, but the ones that kept coming, they would come to different events. So it might not be this event, but they would come to that next one. They would be there if they, or this one right there. And they came in droves, and they actually did what we asked them to do was go tell someone else and bring them. And they told someone else, and they brought them back. And now we got new faces in front of us who then told someone else. And to actually see students do that, because I've been working within the social justice field in this capacity, working with students for the last 2 or 3 years. This is the first time I've actually seen students actually get involved and get engaged with this kind of work. So it just throws it back to, I guess you could say, Monica and Josh and Kemar, Catherine, Jameson. I guess I say myself too. All of the work that we have done and what we're doing actually resonates with these students, and that's amazing to actually see that when I haven't seen that before.
I just want to add just briefly. I think that we've done so well because at this point it's not the same old generations before students that are trying to get them interested in the work. These are people from their generation, and I think they have a strong connection with us. I know at Jackson State, Monica has a strong connection with students. At Tougaloo, Catherine, myself, and Kemar have a strong connection with students. We're immersed in the daily lives of students, and so they're interested in what we're interested in because they know what we're about.
So our next question is, who would you highlight as your biggest supporters dealing with professors and community members?
I would first, anybody and everybody who has helped us out, I would say definitely there. But I think a lot of what we have been able to do at Jackson State, for example, with the hurdle of us not being an on-campus organization or recognized by the campus board as of yet, and we continue that struggle. But if it wasn't for Daphne Chamberlain, Dr. Daphne Chamberlain, and the COFO Center, who she's the director of the COFO Center, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the work that we've done. She opened up the COFO Center for us many days just to have meetings between ourselves and the hosting meetings for the MSJA chapter at Jackson State, to host the different events that we did, whether that was in Incarceration Nation or shooting the web show there, opening it up for tours when we had different people coming in from out of town to show them when the French delegation came, bringing them by the COFO Center, showing them, that rich history of SNCC, the CORE and SCLC and any of the other organizations that worked out of that building. Dr. Chamberlain has definitely been a cornerstone in the development of the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance. So I think that, from my perspective, I think without her help, we wouldn't have got as far as where we are right now.
Absolutely. Even like what Tyson just said with Dr. Chamberlain, and she said out her own mouth, like, that if it was not for us being so dedicated and really her appreciating the cause of what we're doing, like she takes liking to what we're doing, the cause. She's very supportive of what we're doing. So none of what we've been doing on Jackson State's campus could have been possible if we didn't have her to really open up her doors to us, literally. So Professor Diddler, Noelle Diddler, she's been very instrumental. Even working in the summer, she's really helped us out a lot when we were working on op-eds and learning how to write, and to get our point across and messaging. She's been available to us anytime we need her, even if it's with social media. She'll push out information that we put on our MSJA page, put it on her page, get people talking about it via Twitter. Like, she's been one of our biggest supporters on that campus, along with Daphne Chamberlain. So Noelle Dillon and Daphne Chamberlain for Jackson State's supporters on that campus, I think, would have to be the two main supporters.
And there are a host of professors that and faculty members at these institutions that have voice their support for us. At Tougaloo, Chaplain Larry Johnson, also Dr. Larry Johnson in the ICOM and Religious Studies Department at Tougaloo College, has been a great help at helping us navigate things at Tougaloo. I've sent Kemar by his office to, holler at him to speak and get some things in order. Chap has been a great asset. If there's any resource that we've needed that he could provide, he's been willing to do that. And then he's been great, especially during the IM conference, because he has this great knack with students to get them energized about a situation, to speak to them, to really speak to their very foundations and bring everything home. And I think he's done that very effectively. And I think I'd also be remiss if we just didn't even acknowledge President Beverly Hogan's willingness to participate and to help us. If she couldn't be there physically, she sent the provost of the college. She's been just overwhelmingly supportive, and she's put the college's mission to be a part of our mission. And so she's done that, and Chaplain Johnson and President Hogan have just been extremely spectacular in helping our cause.
I think community members, community organization, to highlight, all of the organizations we work with, definitely. Community members, Jed Oppenheim, who works for the Sutherland Poverty Law Center, actually signed up to be one of our first community members of the MSJA, which is awesome. And not only that, he keeps supplying us with more and more information on how we can get involved, and not just get involved with what he's got going on. He wants to get involved with what we has going on. He tells a story about his family coming from a huge labor advocate background, and whatever information he can add, he adds that to it. The Mississippi State Conference NAACP in one voice under the leadership of Derek Johnson, with them being actively involved and understanding what we're doing, they've been able to add resources for us. They've been able to let us use the building to hold meetings in, allowing us to spread our message with the Black Leadership Summit, as well as making sure that we have a place at the table when it comes to getting involved in the community work, which at the NAACP One Voice we have Mr. Frank Figures. Mr. Frank Figures is man, he's an awesome historian, civil rights leader, and so when he sits down to talk to us, it's kind of like we get a perspective on the work that we're doing from the past tense that actually makes it relevant to what we're doing now. Our tour, when we had the French delegation come down, he was our tour guide that took us through and showed that he did that for absolutely no cost at all. So these are people that have been engaged with what we've been doing, which is a blessing that we haven't been doing this on our own. I think, as this video shows, we have done a lot over these last couple months, and if it wasn't for those people who we just mentioned there, that none of this would have been possible. Anybody I left out that I think of?
George Chuck Patterson.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he's been a part of our team. I don't think none of what we've been able to do would have been any successful if Chuck hadn't been the person who printed our flyers, who designed them, and he's just been an overall asset to have to our team. So we just had to mention his name outright. There is several others. I think something that we've done successful, if we're mentioning community members, is we kept our work in the community. We're not sitting away, talking about stuff that we want to happen in the community. We're in the community, and people see us, they know us, they accept the part that the MSJ learns from this community in order to do for the community.
So earlier we talked about our best moment for the semester as a team. What was our worst?
Worst is a hard statement.
We all
it's hard to say worse, because I think everything that we have done, if there have been mistakes or if there has been opportunity for growth, we have taken it as a learning experience for us. So it's never something when we're looking down at, even in our odd moments, we're looking at them as positive because we learned from it and we took something from it. But Jameson, you going?
Yeah, I think we weren't. Everything that we did wasn't always perfect, but and there's always room for improvement. But a big part of being active is not like we don't always have someone to go ahead of us to show us how to do something. You just have to do it. You have to just go out there and create some action. Create the moment. Create what you're trying to do, and create what you're trying to do. And if it's not perfect, then we just come back to the drawing board. We have meetings about it. We talk about ways we can improve.
Yeah.
But we don't let our inexperience with certain issues stop us from actually going out there and making something happen. So I think that it's we do have areas I think we could improve on, but I think we're still doing a great job.
I would say, for this team, our strength and probably, our weakness is that we have this bullheaded, dogmatic persistence. We don't get every moment right, but for damn sure we're not going to quit. I don't think that there's been any moment that we set our minds towards doing something that we haven't accomplished it. Now, there have been areas that we've gotten better at. Proper communication, those are things that we've learned. Succinct communication is something that I'm learning. And we haven't gotten all the moments right. It's just not like this has been just some cakewalk and, that Mississippi team hasn't made. No, there have been moments where we probably couldn't even stand each other. Those moments where tensions are high, some of us don't want to listen to each other. And so those are those moments where we find ourselves not failing, but just having those setbacks. I think that, at points that we didn't accomplish certain stuff as timely as we should have, we're getting better at that. Keeping record of what we're doing. So we don't have to go and recreate things. Those are things that we're constantly getting better in.
I think communication, as Josh said right there, what we've had an opportunity to do, for many of us, this is our first time actually working outside of school. And for many of us, maybe our first quote-unquote job. So dealing with diverse groups of people in that communication aspect is something we've definitely have learned, whether it's dealing with a more of a kind of corporate environment with Detroit, with the initiatives that are coming out of Detroit, or whether it's dealing with the organizers that have been here and engaging and working with the workers at Nissan, or whether that's dealing with the community, how all those pieces intertwine and how we have to communicate with all of them. And sometimes it's a challenge because everybody's not on the same page. Everybody has their own initiatives going one way, going this way, and we're going this way. And we understand and respect that we're kind of the youngest out of that group. So sometimes we are down here as when it flows the information. But I think what we have been able to do is look at, okay, this didn't work for us in this last time. What can we do this next time to make sure that we don't have that same problem? And we have been able to be resilient in figuring out ways to sew up communication that we don't have the same problem again, or the same mistake does not happen again. So,
on a side note, our most difficult task has been dealing with Key Marcane every day.
Okay. I'm pretty sure everybody wondering is what are we looking forward to next semester? What are our accomplishments? What are our goals? So, as a team, we sat down and we discussed what our mission is for next semester, what we plan on doing different, what we plan on keeping, what we threw out. And I think as a whole, we had already discussed most of these questions. What was our worst? What was our best effort? So I think as a whole, next semester, just
Yeah, we're really looking forward to next semester.
Yeah.
I think next semester is going to be action-packed for us. I think that we're going to have some opportunities to really travel and expand our network, our base of people who need to be in the know about what's going on here in Mississippi. And that's really going to be an exciting opportunity. It's going to be exciting to see the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance with that goal that we set for 300 students to reach that or exceed that. It's going to be exciting to see the Georgia Student Justice Alliance grow into what we have here. I mean, we have a coalition around the country of students who are looking in on what's going on here. It's going to be exciting to continue to engage in this community that's here. It's so rich. It's so much that we can gain from just being right here in Jackson, Mississippi, that it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be hard. It's going to have some headaches. It's going to have all that, but we are planning for something to be totally awesome, to starting with the Detroit Auto Show and getting a chance to really, engage in some of the good organizing work that we have to do. So
I think it's going to be exciting to see like right now we're building a foundation, and I feel like those floors above that are really going to jump off next year. And when we can combine our efforts with our network that we're going to continue to build, I think we're going to be a force to reckon with for whatever goal we set out to achieve as a team, as teams spread out across different regions. I think we're going to be very powerful because we bring that. We use technology in a very, creative way to get messages across to a lot of young people, and we've seen, you see in other areas too, where the power of social networking and the types of things that we do, how they can stir up huge numbers of people and cause big movements. I look forward to seeing what we're able to do next semester.
Global organ.
Even some of the things that we discussed, to be more specific about going to the auto shows, training our student leaders, like some of the people that we name, our e-boards, training them so that they are more active without us, because we do know that we'll be taking on different roles this semester. Going to some of the dealerships and having an action that is really not your typical dealership campaign type of deal. And so with the MSJA, of course, it'll be something creative, something different, but something that is effective. We also discussed doing a day at the Capitol with the MSJA, and just like everybody else said, we are looking to improve anything that we haven't done. Improve the stuff that we have done and try to do some things that create some new ideas and new ways for the MSJA to become more part of the conversation via social media and just around Mississippi in general.
So that's the end of our show. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
All right.
Global organizers, we organize to save the day, to give the workers a chance to say we got a voice today, we got a voice today. Global organizers,
90.1
FM.
this has been a production of the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance and the Global Organizing Institute.
Ow!
I don't have nothing to read.
I'm the juggernaut.
This has been a production of the Mississippi Student Justice Alliance and the Global Organizing Institute. One dream, one voice, and Nissan Workers United. We come today in 1997.